Hello, my name is Victoria Agwam, and I have the pleasure of moderating our final panel on PhD admissions. Our two panelists today are Professor Alexandre Mas and Sarah Gault. Dr. Mas is a professor of economics and public affairs at Princeton University. He's also a research fellow at the Institute for the Study of Labor and a research associate at the National Bureau of Economic Research. He formerly served as the chief economist of the United States Department of Labor and is associate director of economic policy at the Office of Management and Budget. Sarah Gault is a senior research, education, and training associate at JPAL Global, where she works on JPAL training courses and the MIT MicroMasters in Data, Economics, and Development Policy. Thank you both so much for being here. You guys can turn on your screen and mics. Before we begin, I encourage anyone with questions about getting into a PhD program to use the webinar's Q&A feature next to the chat button. So, okay. Hi, guys.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Indeed. As we wait for the audience's questions, I'll go ahead and ask my first question to the panel. So to begin, what would you say are the most important aspects of a strong application package, beyond what is stated on a program's websites? For example, what are your thoughts on the GRE?
Should I kick things off? Okay, so well, first of all, just thank you for Research in Color for organizing this. I'm excited that this is happening, and I've been privileged to sort of see it develop, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you will be doing in the future. I've really enjoyed all the presentations, so thank you for this. In terms of what makes a strong application process package, so I think there's a few things. So I'm just going to talk about how things are rather than necessarily how things should be. So let's just start with how things are. So I think just a good academic record is very important. I think there's evidence of strong math preparation. It's become standard to do well or to have a course in real analysis and have done well in it. You can get into grad school without a real analysis class, but it helps to have other math classes on the transcript. In general, the more math classes, the better. I would say a minimum of multivariate calculus is typically necessary. Advanced statistics helps. So math. Letters of recommendation are incredibly important. I would say the best letters are from people who have a track record of giving kind of good predictive recommendations. That's to say who have kind of vouched for people in the past and who have a good track record of doing that. And that's correlated with a recommender's sort of professional stature in some sense, but it's not perfectly correlated. So there are people who are not famous, who have very good track records giving recommendations, and who are known to give good signals. And there are also, the flip side to that, people who are very famous, who maybe are discounted. So in general, doing RA-ships, pre-docs are useful in part because they're a path for getting letters, but I think just in general also helpful independent of the letters because they help build research skills. GREs play a role for sure. I think it's not deterministic. I can't speak for every program. So at Princeton, we don't have a cutoff. Every application is read. GREs are one thing that people will look at, but they'll be weighed against other parts of the application. And I think there's this idea that there's cutoffs, and I think that's detrimental because it leads people not to apply when, if they had applied, other strong points of their application could have offset that. I think if you consider people who have done very well in this profession, I know for a fact that there are people who did not get, top GRE scores, quant GRE scores, and who have done very well. And so I think that should not be perceived as a barrier. Let me just say one last thing. When you apply to grad school, you're going to be asked to write a personal statement. I think personal statements can do more to hurt you than to help you. That's to say, I have not really heard of a story where a personal statement has put a candidate over the top and got them into a school. But I have heard of cases where an otherwise strong candidate did not get admitted because the statement that they wrote displayed that they didn't really know what the PhD program was about. So my advice is to keep the personal statements sort of bland, to the point, and definitely run them by someone who has been, kind of experience with the process to make sure that they give you that that they look it over.
Alrighty, thank you for that answer. This question is for Sarah specifically. Can you explain what the JPAL MicroMasters degree program is at MIT? For example, describing the degree structure, cost, and length.
Yeah, thank you for having me and for organizing this great conference. So the MicroMasters program in Data Economics and Development Policy, or DDP, was designed by JPAL and the Department of Economics at MIT, and it consists of a series of 5 online courses and proctored exams. So through this program, learners gain a strong foundation in economics. They'll complete 3 core courses, which include microeconomics, data analysis, and a course on randomized evaluation, and then choose from 2 of 3 electives on global poverty, development policy, or political economy. So 5 courses can be taken in any sequence, and this curriculum really gives learners the flexibility to choose their own path. Some things that we think make this program unique is that it's open to anyone with a computer and internet access, so there are no formal prerequisites. And these online courses offer the same challenge as what you'd see in residential classes at MIT. It's flexible in terms of scheduling. The courses run multiple times per year, and learners can work through the courses based on a schedule that makes sense for them. The pricing is based on a sliding scale from $100 to $1,000 per course based on someone's individual ability to pay for those courses. And there's opportunities to receive university credit for MicroMasters courses through pathway universities. And one of those opportunities is MIT's new master's program in Data Economics and Development Policy. So this program is open only to MicroMasters credential holders. Accepted students can then earn MIT credit and pursue an accelerated on-campus master's degree. So some exciting news is that the first cohort of 22 students who joined us in January have just completed their program coursework and are graduating this month, and all secured impressive capstone internships this summer, with many going on to receive offers from those employers, and several of them intend to go on to PhD programs in the future. So we think this is also quite a unique program in its invited admissions structure where only credential holders can apply. The admissions process, sort of different than a more traditional PhD admissions process, places an emphasis on performance in the online courses so that students have an equal ability to signal their motivation and their skills. You don't need any prior degrees to apply. The current cohort actually has an 18-year-old high school graduate. And you don't need GRE scores either. But it's an opportunity to earn a master's degree in just 8 months and pay just 1 semester of tuition on campus. There's opportunities for scholarships. Around 1/3 of students received funding offers this year, and we're looking to raise more funds as well. So really, I think we just see both of these programs, the MicroMasters and the master's program, as opportunities for diversifying and democratizing higher education and economics.
Okay, all right, thank you for answering that. That's good. We do have a question from the audience. It states, how can applicants who don't come from top universities for undergrad stand out in the admission process?
So I think there's several ways. I think the most obvious path is through either a pre-doc program or a master's program. And in terms of pre-doc programs, I think, we have one at Princeton, and I would say we typically have, in my group, like, 3 pre-docs per year. And often, I would say actually more often than not, they're from programs that are maybe less well known. And I think, people end up being able to get into good schools because they've demonstrated sort of excellence in research. And that's something that we've worked with. So I think that's one path. And I think the master's degree is another path. I think it's much more rare for somebody to go directly from undergrad, especially if they have a degree that's not in economics, or mathematics, say, and go into an economics program. I think that would be tough. So I think it's the pre-doc or master's route. And then of course the question is, how do you get into a pre-doc? And that's a whole other issue. And that, I think that just moves the barrier from one point to the other. And there, I think you have to find the right groups. And it's a group, you have to find groups that see potential in people, even if they don't have all the training yet. And I think groups vary in that. Some are looking for the most teched up people that they can find, and others are more willing to get people who have a lot of potential and kind of train them.
All right. Lisa, do you have any things to add? Sarah?
Thanks. I just add, in terms of at least the MicroMasters program, I think this coursework can serve to supplement other university level coursework and also provide students with an opportunity, if they're studying or working in other areas, to sort of pivot towards development economics if that's where their interests lie. And sort of through these courses, they can signal to programs, PhD programs or master's programs, their knowledge and mastery of the specific subjects that are covered.
Thank you. On that note, we still have another question. It is, what are your recommendations for students who have studied in other fields in undergrad, such as sociology? How are other social sciences perceived to the admissions committee? That's a good question.
I think it depends. I think it depends on whether the letter writers are known to economists, and some sociologists are, and some are not. So I think that's going to be a factor. So my answer there would be kind of similar. I think it's very possible to move from other fields into economics. I think having math background, quantitative background helps a lot. And I think doing it through either a master's or pre-doc is probably the easiest way to go. But there are many cases, not many, but there's certainly a lot of economists who have not been economics majors, who have kind of gotten their foot in the door.
Alrighty. More generally, how are programs actively working on diversifying their pool of admins?
Yeah, I think Sarah, do you want to get started, or do you want me to? I'm happy to. I don't want to dominate.
I'm happy for you to start, and then I can add on.
Sure. So I think there's a lot of interest, I think, in probably every program, but or most programs, to diversify the pool of applicants. And I certainly can't speak for all programs. I think the one margin which we struggle with is the applicant margin. We don't get enough applications, and you know, I think I can't tell you 100% the reason why that is, but I think part of it is maybe financial. Applications cost money, and so I think there's a need for programs to reduce application fees, or to set them to zero, and or to have you know, sources of money out there that can help cover these fees. And I think it's possible that there's a forecasting issue. It's kind of like what I was talking about with the GREs, that people sort of you know, look at their record and say, oh, my grades aren't perfect, or my GRE isn't perfect, and then just decide not to apply. And you know, I think if the financial barrier were low enough, I would hope that people would apply, because there are no cutoffs, and we look at the whole application. So I think that's one of the main ways that we're looking at.
All right, thank you. In the interest of time, we do have to end it here, but thank you so much for answering all those questions, and it's been a pleasure moderating the panel.